Is she even qualified? Or is she just here for the diversity photo? That was the exact phrase Vice President Amanda Sterling said, in front of everyone, when Kiara Brooks walked up to inspect the hydraulic system of a $70 million jet. Never mind Kiara had 2 engineering degrees. Never mind she had hundreds of flight hours logged in safety certifications. She was young, black, fashionable, and that was enough for Amanda to humiliate her in broad daylight and kick her off the runway. But what happened 5 minutes later silenced an entire corporation. Because when the jet nearly exploded on takeoff, the only person who knew how to stop it wasn't the white men in suits. It was the very woman they called unfit. And the twist? Amanda would soon learn that the black girl she insulted was the daughter of a woman who had once saved her family's life. This is not just a racist story. This is a story about redemption, reversal, and the kind of quiet courage that rewrites legacy. If you believe in justice that doesn't shout, but builds, stick around. Like, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories that challenge everything we think we know. The sun blazed over the Miami International Airport tarmac, casting long shadows over the glinting fuselages of private jets and the hurried steps of ground crew. Among them walked Kiara Brooks, 24, black, radiant, and striking in her form-fitting navy blue jumpsuit with orange trim. Her hair was pulled into a stylish ponytail, her walk purposeful, her clipboard tucked under her arm like a badge of pride. She wasn't just a technician, she was a licensed aerospace engineer. But that didn't matter to Amanda Sterling, the vice president of Sterling Aerospace and daughter of the conglomerate's founder. Amanda, in her tailored ivory blazer and stiletto heels, stood like royalty at the foot of her private Gulfstream G650. Her blonde bob was perfect, her lips tight, her tone sharper than the engine whine in the background. "You," Amanda barked, eyes narrowing. "Why are you near my plane?" Kiara froze mid-step. "Ma'am, I was assigned to inspect the pressure systems before takeoff." "Routine safety." Amanda scoffed. "I don't need Instagram models checking my jet. Get someone else. Someone with experience, not just curves and attitude." Laughter erupted behind her from 2 junior execs. Kiara stood frozen, her throat tight, the clipboard trembling slightly in her grip. "I have a master's in aerospace from Georgia Tech," she said quietly, trying to hold composure. Amanda turned back slowly. "And yet, here you are, still playing with wrenches on the tarmac. You may have a degree, but you don't look like someone I'd trust with my life." The words hit like a slap. Not because they were shouted, but because they were delivered with calm cruelty. Kiara opened her mouth but closed it again. She knew better than to argue with someone like Amanda, privileged, powerful, and too polished to be questioned in public. Her supervisor, nervous and sweating nearby, tapped her shoulder. "Brooks, step back. I'll handle this." He didn't look her in the eye. Kiara stepped aside, humiliated, heart racing. She wanted to shout, wanted to scream, but all she could do was nod and walk away. Her heels echoed against the concrete as she returned to the maintenance area. Inside the dim break room, she collapsed onto a chair, chest heaving. She hadn't cried in years. But this time, the sting behind her eyes was too strong. It wasn't just Amanda's words. It was the snickers. The fact that no one, not one person, stood up for her. The fact that she could be right and still treated like she didn't belong because she was young, black, and beautiful. She thought of her father, Darius Brooks, a retired firefighter who had raised her alone after her mother passed away. "They'll never hand you respect, Kiara," he once told her. "You'll have to take it, and sometimes, take the hit first." She looked at her hands. Painted nails. A gold bracelet. Delicate wrists, but underneath, the hands of someone who had rewired jets, fixed pressure valves at midnight, pulled entire hydraulic systems apart with only a manual light. And yet, Amanda Sterling saw none of that. Suddenly, a sharp voice crackled over the radio. "All engineers, report to Hangar 7. Unstable PSI reading on VIP jet scheduled for immediate departure. Kiara's eyes widened. Hangar 7. That was Amanda's plane. She stood, grabbed her tools, and hesitated. No one had asked for her. In fact, she had been dismissed. But if what she saw earlier was correct, there was a fault, a dangerous one. Her instincts screamed. They're about to launch with a compromised system. She ran. The alarm sounded across the tarmac, shrill and high-pitched. Engineers scrambled like startled birds, their radios echoing the same alert: potential hydraulic breach, Hangar 7. Immediate response required. But Kiara was already halfway there. She sprinted down the corridor, boots pounding the pavement, heart hammering louder than the warning sirens. No one had cleared her. No one had radioed for her help. But the problem she suspected earlier, a misaligned coupling on the left wing's gear housing, could easily rupture under takeoff stress. And if it did, the plane could crash within minutes. As she reached the VIP hangar, chaos unfolded. The plane's tail shimmered under the bright morning sun, but smoke curled subtly from underneath the landing gear. A nearby fire tech yelled into a radio, heat signature rising near the pressure line. The technicians Amanda had summoned stood frozen. They were senior, on paper, but none had ever touched that model of aircraft. They circled like bureaucrats, flipping through manuals, waiting for permission to act. Amanda, standing at the top of the boarding stairs with her phone pressed to her ear, barked, "Get someone from corporate. Where's the chief engineer? Why is no one doing anything?" Kiara didn't stop. She ducked under the yellow perimeter line, toolbox in one hand, her eyes laser-focused on the weak point she had noticed before, the panel just below the auxiliary valve. "Hey! You can't be here," someone shouted. "I'm not here for permission," Kiara snapped, throwing open the access panel and sliding under the aircraft belly. Inside the compartment, the pressure line hissed faintly, a sound only someone who knew this bird would notice. Her gloves were slick as she unlatched the casing. Her bracelet snapped, sliding off her wrist, but she didn't even blink. She yelled, "Shut down the hydraulic system. Manual override now." Nobody moved. Then a voice behind her boomed, "Do what she says. Now." It was the pilot, a seasoned veteran named Torres. He had seen that look in her eyes before. Not panic, precision. He keyed in the override. The hissing dropped. Kiara reached into the cavity, clamped the line, and spotted the real killer, a hairline fracture on the main junction seal. It wouldn't show up on a routine check. It wouldn't trigger alarms. But at 30,000 feet under full strain, it would have blown. Amanda's voice shrieked over the chaos, "Get her away from my plane. She's not authorized." Kiara didn't even flinch. "If you want to live, shut up." Her voice sliced through the air, not loud, but unshakable. Torres looked back at Amanda and barked, "Call off the takeoff. We're towing it back." "No. This is a PR nightmare," Amanda began. "You'll have bigger nightmares if this plane explodes," he snapped. The plane engines hissed as they powered down. Sirens faded. Crew began dismounting. The mood shifted. From scattered panic to something quieter, respectful silence. Kiara finished her emergency fix, sealed the panel, and rolled out from beneath the aircraft, grease streaking across her cheek. For the first time, people looked at her, not like she was out of place, but like she had just saved their lives. Amanda stepped forward, red-faced, trembling with a fury she couldn't mask. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Kiara met her eyes, calm and firm. "The woman who just saved you from dying in a metal coffin." The hangar fell silent. Amanda froze. And then, somewhere near the back, someone whispered, "Who trained her?" Another replied, "She trained herself. Got a degree. Interned with NASA. Worked her way from nothing." Still breathing hard, Kiara turned away. She didn't wait for applause. She didn't want it. But just before she left the hangar, Amanda said something that made her stop in her tracks. My mother once told me a woman saved her life in a car crash. She never got her name. Just said she was a black woman who worked at a fire station. Said she disappeared before the ambulance even came. Kiara turned slowly. My dad was a firefighter, she said quietly. But it was my mom, her name was Deborah Brooks. She pulled someone from a burning car outside Atlanta 30 years ago. Never told anyone. Said it was just the right thing to do. Amanda's jaw dropped. My mother kept a photo. I saw it. That woman, she had your eyes. For the first time, Amanda looked at Kiara and saw not just a mechanic, not even just a hero, but a mirror into a forgotten debt. Neither woman spoke another word. But everything had changed. The following morning, the story had already leaked. Local media buzzed with reports of a young black female engineer who prevented a VIP runway explosion. But Kiara Brooks was nowhere near a microphone. She was back in the hangar, tightening bolts, inspecting pressure gauges, exactly where she belonged. She refused interviews. She declined offers from rival companies. She even turned down a profile in Women in Aerospace. But then came the unexpected. A courier delivered a letter. Handwritten. Heavy, cream paper. At the bottom, Richard Sterling, the patriarch of Sterling Aerospace, Amanda's father. Miss Brooks. My daughter owes you her life. But more than that, our company owes you its conscience. We would like to meet. Kiara wasn't sure if she was ready for another confrontation with privilege, but she agreed. The meeting took place not in a skyscraper boardroom, but in a small glass room off the hangar, her terms. Richard arrived alone, no PR staff, no cameras. He looked older than the man she'd seen on TV. More tired. More human. I didn't raise Amanda to be that person, he said bluntly. But I failed to stop her from becoming it. Kiara said nothing. She told me about your mother. I remember the story. A woman pulled my wife from a flaming vehicle in '94. I tried to find her. Couldn't. Your mother didn't want to be found. She never wanted credit, Kiara replied. Only justice. Richard nodded slowly. I can't change what Amanda did to you. But I can offer something more meaningful than an apology. We want you to lead a new initiative, company-wide. A nationwide training and mentorship program for women and minority youth in aviation tech. Build it. Your way. Kiara blinked. You want me to lead it? Full budget. Full control. You answer to no one but me. I'll step in only if it's ever threatened. She looked at him carefully. This wasn't a PR stunt. This was a man trying, at the end of a long, powerful career, to make something right. She agreed, with one condition. No branding. No glamour. No fake promises. I want to name it after my mom, Deborah's Lift. A place where no one gets told they don't belong. Richard extended his hand. Deal. Within weeks, Deborah's Lift opened its first site, an unused section of the Miami hangar, stripped bare and filled with hope. Students came in droves. Not just girls or kids of color, but anyone who had ever been told you're not what we're looking for. There were no entrance exams. Only a question, are you willing to work? Amanda Sterling, once untouchable, was nowhere in the launch photos. Rumors swirled, was she fired? Suspended? But then, one afternoon, she walked into the hangar quietly. Dressed in jeans. Hair pulled back. No entourage. Kiara looked up from a training module. Here to protest. Amanda shook her head. Here to learn. She joined the cohort. No special treatment. No corner office. The same gloves. The same grit. The same silence she once mocked. The tech crew watched in disbelief. But Kiara didn't explain. She didn't have to. Every time Amanda stumbled and got back up, every time she took instruction without complaint, the message was clear. Change is possible. But only if you're willing to start at zero. In a quiet moment, Amanda approached Kiara, sweat on her forehead, engine grease on her sleeve. I thought being in charge meant knowing everything. Kiara smiled faintly. Nah. It means knowing what you don't know, and listening anyway. Amanda nodded. And I never said thank you. For the plane. For not walking away. Kiara looked her dead in the eye. You don't owe me gratitude. Just don't waste the second chance. Outside, a group of students were working under a decommissioned engine. Laughter echoed across the hangar. The future was loud, bright, and full of motion. And in the corner, the name on the wall gleamed under fluorescent lights. Deborah's Lift, where grounded dreams take flight. No applause. No spotlight. Just flight manuals, worn gloves, and a line of kids waiting to build something that mattered. 6 months passed. What began as a single training hub in the corner of a forgotten hangar had now expanded to 3 cities, Atlanta, Detroit, and Oakland. Deborah's Lift was no longer just a program. It was a movement. Students who once had no direction were now building turbine models, disassembling landing gears, and even shadowing flight tech teams at regional airports. Companies that had once ignored applicants without Ivy League degrees were now requesting Lift graduates by name. But not everyone was pleased. A quiet resistance began to stir, old executives who whispered in boardrooms that Kiara was unorthodox, that she bypassed traditional HR vetting, that standards might be slipping. A memo leaked. An internal review was ordered. Suddenly, Deborah's Lift was under inspection, not for safety, but for structure. For its lack of hierarchy. Its freedom. Its difference. Kiara saw it coming. She gathered her students that morning. No long speeches. Just a whiteboard. She wrote 3 words, "They're watching us." Then she turned to them. This week isn't just about passing a test. It's about showing them that people like us, who weren't supposed to be here, deserve to be here. No one flinched. Inspections began the next day. Suit-wearing auditors hovered in corners, took notes during welding drills, flipped through training logs. One asked a student named Jalen, "Why don't you have a GPA requirement to get in here?" Jalen looked him dead in the eye. "Because trauma don't show up on transcripts, sir." Another asked a girl named Lucia, "You think you're ready for this field?" Lucia wiped oil from her gloves and said, "I am this field. I just never had the tools before." They said nothing more. Then came the final day. The lead auditor stood before the class, cleared his throat, and began, "While the program shows promise, there are structural inconsistencies and..." He didn't finish. Richard Sterling walked into the room. No tie. Rolled sleeves. The room fell silent. He held up a report stamped with the company seal. "I've reviewed the findings," he said. "And I've decided, Deborah's Lift will not be audited again." The auditor stammered, "But sir." Richard raised a hand. "This initiative isn't a risk. It's a model. And from today forward, it's not a project. It's a core division. Like R&D. Like engineering. Like safety." He looked at Kiara. "And if anyone here can't get behind that, you know where the exit is." No one moved. Later that evening, as students celebrated with cheap sparkling cider and corny hip-hop playing off a Bluetooth speaker, Amanda Sterling approached Kiara again. This time, she wasn't sweaty or smudged. She was polished. Calm. Holding something in her hands. A photo. Weathered. A black woman in a firefighter's coat, standing beside a burning wreck, half shadowed by smoke. On the back, Amanda had written. She didn't wait for permission either. Kiara stared at it for a long time. Then smiled. Outside, the training hangar buzzed with light and laughter. A new batch of students was already applying. A girl with pink braids adjusted a safety mask. A boy with a stutter gave instructions to someone twice his size. And in the distance, a single plane soared low over the Miami skyline, its shadow falling across the name painted boldly on the hangar wall. Deborah's Lift. Built by those who were never meant to fly. And inside, Kiara Brooks walked past the tools, the desks, the future she helped rebuild from ashes, whispering to herself her mother's words. You don't need wings to fly. Just the guts to jump. In a world where perception often outweighs merit, Kiara Brooks reminds us that dignity isn't handed to you, it's built, bolt by bolt, moment by moment. Her journey from public humiliation to silent heroism and finally to national leadership shows that true justice isn't about revenge, it's about redirection. About turning shame into a blueprint for others to rise. As her mother once said, you don't need recognition to do what's right. Just the will to do it. Kiara didn't win by shouting louder, she won by acting smarter, standing longer, and refusing to disappear. Maybe you've been told you don't belong. That you're not meant to be here. If so, let this story whisper back, yes, you are. If this touched you, like the video, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories that remind us, sometimes, the most powerful leaders come from the ground up.